You know, there's one thing I've realized after more than 60 years of living. People aren't poor because they don't have money. They're poor because they haven't learned how to think right about life. I've met hundreds of people, from employees to successful business owners. And the thing that strikes me most isn't the difference in their bank accounts. It's the difference in their mindset. When you look at the world through the lens of scarcity, you'll only see closed doors. But when you learn to see through the eyes of a creator, every closed door becomes an opportunity to open a new one. I want you to imagine this. You're standing in front of an old house. The door is rusty, the handle corroded to the point you're afraid to touch it. You could stand there complaining, saying, "Why is my life so hard?" Or you could go and find another key. Life works the same way. Poverty isn't in your wallet, it's in how you face that door. I remember once an old friend of mine, now in his 50s, said to me, "John, I feel stuck. I've worked hard my whole life and I'm still not moving forward." I asked him, "Why do you think that is?" He sighed and said, "Maybe I just don't have luck." And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. No one succeeds because of luck. They succeed because they build the right habits, and more importantly, because they take responsibility for their lives. I've been poor. I've failed. I've stood in those dark days where I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But there's one thing I never did. I never blamed anyone. I didn't blame the government, my age, the economy, or anyone else, because I understood something powerful. The moment I blame someone else, I give away control over my own life. Have you ever felt that way? Like the whole world is working against you, like you're running on a treadmill, exhausted but not moving forward? I've been there. And I realize there are 4 traps that keep people poor forever. The first is the consumer trap, when you buy things just to look okay in front of others. The second is the fear trap, when you cling to small things instead of taking bold steps for something bigger. The third is the procrastination trap, when you promise yourself, "I'll start on Monday," and that Monday never comes. And finally, the environment trap, when you surround yourself with people who only talk about problems, never about solutions. I've seen talented people, smart people, people with potential, stay stuck their entire lives in those 4 traps. And they convince themselves, maybe this is just how my life is meant to be. But I'm here to tell you, it's never too late to change. I once met a man named Robert. He started over at 57. He had worked in an office for 30 years until one day he was laid off. He could have complained, blamed life, or given up, but instead he started learning about small investments, communication skills, and he even launched a YouTube channel sharing his experience. 3 years later, Robert was making more money and living with more freedom than ever before. When I asked for his secret, he said one sentence I'll never forget. "I started thinking like a rich man, not about money, but about value." And that's one of the most important lessons I've ever learned. Poor people focus on cost. Rich people focus on value. Poor people ask, "How much does this course cost?" Rich people ask, "How much value will this course bring me in the future?" If you see everything only through the lens of cost, you'll miss every meaningful opportunity. Because everything worthwhile in life comes with a price, but that price is called investment, not spending. I once read a study from Stanford University that said, success doesn't come from big decisions, but from hundreds of small ones repeated every day. And that, my friend, is the power of habit. A habit is like a bamboo tree. It doesn't grow overnight. In the first year, you see nothing. In the second year, still nothing. But by the 6th year, it shoots up more than 100 feet. That's what good habits do. They grow silently, slowly, but powerfully. You don't need to change your whole life in one day. You just need to change one habit a day and let time do the rest. But you know what? Poor people usually do the opposite. They spend time as if it's unlimited and hold on to money as if it's everything. While the wealthy do the reverse, they spend money to save time because they understand time is the most valuable asset. A good friend of mine once told me, "John, time is the only thing I can't earn back, so I invest it wisely." Think about that. Every morning you wake up, you have 24 hours, an invisible fortune God gives you. You can waste it on meaningless things, or you can use it to plant seeds for a better tomorrow. I know sometimes life feels exhausting. After 50, the world changes too fast. Technology, family work, everything moves ahead. And maybe you ask yourself, do I still have enough time to change? My answer is always yes. Because change is not about age, it's about choice. And I'm not here to lecture you. I'm here to remind you, you still have time, you still have opportunity, and you still have value. Before we go any further, I want you to remember this. Life never pays you for complaining. It only pays you for action, persistence, and belief. Belief that you deserve a better life. Don't chase money. Create value. Don't try to be busy. Try to be effective. Don't fear failure because failure is the tuition of success. And, above all, never believe that it's too late to start over. In today's video, I'll share with you 15 lessons I've learned over more than half a lifetime lessons that help me and hundreds of others escape the cycle of fear, poverty, and confusion. To live a life that's more meaningful, more free, and yes, richer, not just in money, but in spirit. Because I truly believe this. When you change your mindset, your wallet changes too. And when you learn to invest in yourself, every door in life will start to open. I want to start with something you might not want to hear, but you need to hear it. Not everyone you meet deserves a place in your life. I've met so many people in my seminars, men and women in their 50s, 60s, still surrounded by relationships that drain them. They tell me, John, I'm afraid of being alone. And I understand that fear. I used to be afraid too. But over time, I learned something important. Loneliness can be a gift because only when you're alone can you truly hear your own voice. Only when you let go of the people who hurt you can you make room for better ones to come in. A woman once told me after a talk in Arizona, I lost my husband, I lost my friends, and I thought I lost myself. But then I realized what I lost wasn't happiness. It was the illusion of happiness. And I smiled and said to her, that's the moment you started finding real peace. I used to think success meant having more money. But the older I get, the more I realize success is when you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Young people chase recognition. Mature people choose peace. A close friend of mine, a once wealthy businessman in New York, left everything behind when he retired. He moved to a small town living a quiet life. When I asked him why, he said, I spent half my life getting everything others admired, and the other half trying to find what I'd lost myself. I was silent because I knew he had discovered what many people spend their whole lives never realizing life isn't about racing, it's about feeling. I once read a 75-year-long Harvard study that concluded something powerful. The key to long-term happiness isn't money or fame, it's the quality of your relationships. But here's the catch. It's not how many relationships you have, but having the right ones. If someone makes you feel small, makes you quiet your voice just to keep the peace, that's not friendship. That's emotional imprisonment. You don't need 10 people around you to feel happy. You just need 2 or 3 who truly see you and lift you up. And sometimes you have to be that person for yourself. Now let me tell you about something else, the power of gratitude. Many people live their whole lives in scarcity, not because they have nothing but because they don't see how much they already have. I still remember one freezing winter morning in Chicago. I met a homeless man sitting on the sidewalk. I stopped, handed him a cup of hot coffee. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Thank you. I have nothing, but I still have my smile." I kept walking, but my heart felt heavy. A man with nothing could still thank life, while so many of us who have everything never feel enough. That day, I realized something. Gratitude doesn't change your situation. It changes the way you see your situation. And when you feel grateful, your mind shifts from scarcity to abundance. That's the real starting point of change. Another truth I've learned is this: you can't move forward if you keep looking backward. I meet so many older people who live with 2 words, what if? What if I had been braver? What if I hadn't missed that chance? What if I had said, I'm sorry sooner? But what if will never take you back. It only pulls you away from the present. A friend once told me, John, I wasted 10 years living in regret, and another 10 learning how to forgive myself. Forgiving others is easy. Forgiving yourself, that's true freedom. And when you do, you'll feel lighter than ever before. Now, there's something else I want to share, maybe the most important thing of all. Choose environments that nurture you, not the ones that drain you. You can't soar if you stay in a room full of fear. You can't think big if you spend your days surrounded by complaints. I once worked with a 55-year-old man who said, I want to change, but all my friends laugh at me. They say, at this age, what's the point? I looked at him and said gently, they're not laughing because you're wrong. They're laughing because they're afraid you might succeed. And a few years later, he did change his life. He started teaching online writing books, and now he's happier than ever. You see, sometimes you just have to leave the wrong room to find the right light. One habit I always tell my students is this: spend at least 10 minutes a day in silence. No phone, no TV, no social media, just you with yourself. In that silence, you'll hear things the noise once buried, dreams you forgot, wounds you never healed, and answers you've been searching for. Science has proven that just a few minutes of stillness a day lowers stress, improves focus, and even helps your heart. But more than that, it helps you come home to yourself. And then there's the power of small daily actions. Change doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from consistent, tiny steps. You don't need to read 10 books a month. Just read 10 pages a day. You don't need to run 5 miles every morning. Just walk for 10 minutes. It may seem small, but over time, these small things create an entirely different life. I once helped a 52-year-old woman change her health with just one new habit. Every morning, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for and drank a glass of warm lemon water. 3 years later, she told me, "I'm not just healthier, I'm happier." That's the power of consistency. And here's another truth. No one is responsible for your happiness but you. We often wait for someone else to bring us joy or opportunity or approval, but when you place your happiness in someone else's hands, you give away your freedom. I learned that the hard way after losing someone I loved deeply. I spent years trying to make them happy, and in the process, I lost myself. When that relationship ended, I realized something painful. I had never truly loved myself. And I want you to know this self-love isn't selfish. It's the foundation of every other kind of love. You see what I'm sharing with you today? It's not from books. It's from my own scars and from the hundreds of people I've met over the past 30 years. People who fell, broke down, lost hope, but stood back up stronger than ever. Because they chose to change. Change isn't always easy, but if you want a different life, you must become a different person. So now I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what habits am I keeping that are holding me back? Who am I holding on to just because I'm afraid of being alone? And most importantly, am I living in alignment with my true values? Because here's the truth. Life isn't measured by how many years you live, but by how authentically you live them. And if you've listened this far, it means some part of you is ready for change. And that's where the magic begins. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. You can still rewrite your story starting today, starting right now. I still remember many years ago, one autumn afternoon in Vermont, sitting alone by the window, watching the yellow leaves fall gently onto the damp ground. It suddenly struck me, people are a lot like autumn. We have to let go in order to prepare for a new season. If a leaf were afraid to fall, it would never see spring again. And just like that leaf, if you keep holding on to what's gone, you'll never make space for what's meant to come. I've lived long enough to know that everything changes whether you want it to or not. Your health, your job, your relationships, even the people you once thought would never leave. Everything has its time to arrive and its time to go. The only real question is, do you have the courage to keep walking when life changes its course? I've met many people who've lost everything: jobs, marriages, money, and they thought they'd never recover. But after a while, they smiled again. They grew stronger, wiser, more peaceful. And when I asked them, what helped you through it? They all said the same thing: I stopped fighting life. You see, pain doesn't come to punish you. It comes to teach you how to let go. Let go of control, let go of expectations, let go of the idea that life must unfold your way. Life doesn't owe you fairness, but it will always send you the lesson you need right on time. Someone once asked me, John, why do good things always come so late? I smiled and said, because you weren't ready yet. When you're truly ready, the good things will find you. At this age, you've probably lived through enough ups and downs to know that the road isn't lined with roses, but you also know that it's the hard years that make us wiser, deeper, more grateful. I once lost everything: my job, my reputation, even the people I loved. But standing there in the ashes, I finally saw who I really was. No titles, no spotlight, just a human being with a heart that could still feel. And that's when I began to truly live, not to be seen, not to be admired, but simply to be present, to feel each breath, each sunrise, each person who crossed my path. There's a quote I love: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I used to see life through the lens of success and failure. Now I see it through experience and growth. Nothing is a failure if you've learned something from it. Nothing is lost if you've gained strength. Every scar, every heartbreak, every fall, they're all proof of the strength that's already inside you. And one day, you'll look back, smile, and say, I went through it all, and I'm still here. If you're listening to me right now, I want you to do one simple thing. Take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and whisper to yourself, I'm still here, and I can begin again. Because it doesn't matter how old you are or how many times you've failed, if you can still open your eyes each morning, you can start again. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to become a better version of yourself bit by bit, day by day. I've seen people at 65 start painting. I've seen people at 70 start YouTube channels to share their life stories. I've seen people who thought all hope was gone find joy again in the chirping of birds, a warm cup of tea, or an old book. Life is never too late. Only the mind decides when it's over. I often tell my students, happiness doesn't come when you get what you want. It comes when you stop running from who you are. Sit down sometime and look back at your life, not to regret, but to give thanks. Thank those who left for they taught you lessons. Thank those who stayed for they gave you love. And thank yourself for not giving up. Sometimes gratitude is the most beautiful prayer you can offer to the universe. I don't know where you are in your life right now. Maybe you're lost, maybe you're content, maybe you're standing at a crossroads. But wherever you are, remember this. No one else can walk your path for you. Everyone has their own rhythm. Don't compare yourself to others. Some find peace at 30, others only at 60. And both are perfectly on time. Life isn't a race. It's a journey back to yourself. Let me tell you a short story. Not long ago, I met an 82-year-old man at a seminar. He came up to me, held my hand, and said, John, I've been listening to your talks for 10 years. I thought my life was over at 70, but because of you, I realized I could still live another life, the life of peace. I looked into his eyes, and in them, I saw a quiet sky. That's when I understood, when your heart is at peace, everything else falls into place. I know sometimes you feel tired, discouraged, or lost in this fast-moving world. You scroll through your phone, see others succeeding and smiling while you're still struggling to find your way. But remember, what you see is just the surface of their story. You don't know how many sleepless nights or silent tears it took for them to smile for that one photo. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Write your own story slowly, truthfully. If you're hearing me right now, take this as a sign to begin. Begin to live more mindfully. Begin to love yourself more deeply. Begin to choose joy over fear. Begin to say thank you instead of why me. And begin to believe you deserve a full, beautiful life. Because no one can save you but yourself. There's no magic, only the small changes you choose to make every single day. Start by standing up, taking a walk, smiling, or calling that old friend you've missed. The small things, those are where healing begins. After 6 decades of living, I've learned that true success isn't about how much you have, but how peaceful you feel. Peace doesn't come from having more, but from needing less. Not from being loved more, but from realizing you are already enough. And if you can wake up each morning, look in the mirror and say, I'm alive, I'm grateful, and I'll try one more day, then you are already more successful than most of the world. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I don't know who you are or where you are, but I know inside you there's still a small flame burning. Hold on to it, because when you keep your inner light alive, no darkness outside can ever put it out. And if today feels heavy, remember this. You've survived 100% of your worst days, and you'll survive many more. Believe me, it's never too late to begin again, to love again, to be true to who you are. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real and keep walking. I'm John. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because sometimes a single gentle reminder can save a wandering soul. Thank you for listening. May you have a peaceful day and a life worth living.